Hello and welcome to The Big Fight, a show that is young at 23, the oldest running debate show on Indian news television. I'm Sanket Upadhyay. Now, if you look at the events of the last few weeks, and I'm saying few weeks because that is what has happened, you can either call it an event or a very uneventful stint in Parliament, depending on your mental orientation. The fact that nothing happened in Parliament, and the accusation was that the Treasury benches are the reason why nothing is happening in Parliament. While that continued this week itself, a disqualification has happened, and that too of the tallest leader in the Congress party, Rahul Gandhi. He's been disqualified because of a conviction in a defamation case over a speech that he made in Kolar in Karnataka, and a court in Surat pronounced its verdict. Now this disqualification is automatic. That's how the law is. But keeping legality aside, and we'll talk about the legal aspects also, but for this moment, keeping legality aside, politically we see both the BJP and the Congress party starting their messaging campaign. So as far as BJP is concerned, they look at this as an attack and an assault against OBCs. Why Rahul Gandhi chose to defame all people with a Modi surname. And on the other hand, you've got the Congress party which is mounting a campaign saying that Savarkar nahi Gandhi hai, will not apologize. So both are taking these messages to their respective constituencies ahead of 2024. The big question on The Big Fight is this: whose messaging will deliver in 2024? Let's kickstart The Big Fight. I have with me in the studio Mr. Desh Ratan Nigam. He's an advocate in the Supreme Court. Shazia Elmi, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Thank you very much for joining us. Anshul Avijit, spokesperson of the Congress. Thank you very much to you too. Jayanto Ghoshal, senior journalist. Thank you for joining us. N.K. Singh is a senior journalist who joins us via satellite. And we also have Mr. Aman Lekhi, senior advocate of the Supreme Court and former ASG. Thank you very much, Mr. Lekhi. We begin the show with what we call is the first punch, where each of you get 1 minute time to make your opening submissions. Shazia Elmi, will begin with you. Your time starts now.
So I think this is followed judicial process, and it's all for everybody to see. I think Rahul Gandhi finally will have to realize that in public life, words have to be chosen carefully. And the kind of arrogance that has been displayed by this leader, not just once but many times, it just goes on to say that there is a clear lack of sobriety, propriety. And here, this beats all levels of political incorrectness, I should say, when the OBC community is being targeted, when an entire community is, terms are being used which broad brushes the entire community and vilifies them. So I think a lesser, as the court says, a lesser judgment would have sent out a wrong message. It is high time that Rahul Gandhi mends his ways. This is not the first time that has happened. This is the sixth matter, seventh actually, if you include the National Herald case. So it's time that he learns to respect people, the communities and the various castes and the citizens of this country.
Okay, fine. Anshul Avijit, your opening comments.
Well, let me be clear and categorical. There is no question of ever defaming any community at all, because the central ideology of the Congress party is social justice. We have full faith in the judicial process, in the judiciary, because there are inbuilt corrective mechanisms in that. We will appeal them. Of course, there is a disagreement with the judgment, which we have every right to have. But the broader question is not about this case. It is about what is happening in India in the last 8 years. There is the tyranny of the executive. The executive is overreaching itself. Over the past 8 years, there have been an alarming number of cases of the ED. About 97% of them have been against the opposition members. I mean, this would raise some sort of suspicion. Again, moving on, the opposition voice is being muzzled. The legislature is not being allowed to function. One of the great pillars of democracy, after all, if people are chosen, they are chosen to represent them in the legislature. There is no debate in the legislature. Their voice is being stifled and being muzzled. People's civil liberties are being curbed.
Sure.
And of course, the freedom of the press is being taken away.
Okay. I'm going to come back to you. Some legal voices also now. Aman Lekhi, your opening comments, sir.
Well, I personally feel the whole case actually hinges not on the offense of defamation, but the condition precedent for initiation of defamation, that is person aggrieved. Now, person aggrieved is not defined, and because it's not defined, it depends upon the nature of the case and the circumstances. In the circumstances are seen quite obviously the target of Rahul's attack, and as far as public discourse is concerned, it's lacking in refinement and erudition, and what Rahul said is a case in point, but that is across the political spectrum. It's quite obvious that the engagement of Rahul was with Mr. Modi, who actually showed some sagacity by not actually initiating criminal proceedings, because if he is the target of the attack and is presented to be a criminal, in that event, his legitimate grievance would be litigated in court. That said, question is he did not come. So what is the locus of the person who actually came? Because merely being part of a group doesn't entitle a person to come to the court for hurt feelings. There has to be injury, that is legal injury, which he should suffer personally. So whether that requirement is satisfied, it's not known. Number one. Number two, I feel as far as the sentence is concerned, whatever Shazia may say, yes, they have to be held to rigorous standards. 2 years is the maximum punishment. That is in some way connected to 8 of the representation of people and a disqualification. And the immediacy of the disqualification may suggest is some kind of connect between between the verdict and the disqualification. This is number 2. Number 3, notwithstanding disqualification, in spite of its being immediate, judicial re-examination of what the court of first instance does is rooted in our polity. So to preempt the outcome for court by immediately disqualifying when the court, which has in fact convicted, has given 30 days of appeal, seems to be incorrect. It's lacking in propriety.
Okay, I think it's an important point you're making, Mr. Lekhi. If you allow me, I'm going to circle back to you in just a short moment once we are done with the opening comments. Deshratan Nigam.
Well, this present verdict clearly, establishes one fact, and which runs across the political spectrum, that we should be more responsible, and probably this verdict will make political leaders across party lines more responsible. And this is one lesson I believe this verdict is sending. Yes, there are several other issues also which this verdict has raised. The political warfare will be, done at the political level, and the political parties would do it. But legally speaking, I believe, although I am not a lawyer in this particular case, nor I have seen the file, the correct position of law would come after reading the file, the entire material on record. And the most important question today is the opposition unity which they are trying to do is based on corruption, which is very shocking. And most of the cases, if you look at whether it was SP or BSP, they have been filed on each other's complaint, whether it was Congress also. So ultimately what happens today is the opposition has to stand on its own merit and legs, not on the basis of corruption.
Okay, Jayanta Ghoshal.
At the outset, I will say that what will be the political outcome of this controversy, I mean after this disqualification, who will be the beneficiary politically, that's a different story. That is, but very important story, because as you said, that both the camps, they are trying to explore the possibility. But I should, say, because this is my opinion, that what Rahul Gandhi has done, it's a major mistake, because what he has said, that is not proper, because the content of Rahul Gandhi's statement, I cannot support it. This is number one. Number two, that when you are in politics, you have to see that how many other political parties are supporting you. On this issue, all the regional parties, in fact, there is a attempt to unification of the opposition parties on the enforcement and CBI issue. But on this particular statement, I am not seeing that much consolidated voice of opposition parties
the opposition.
Also.
Okay.
And number 3 point, that you have to communicate. You have to communicate.
I'm going to come back
to
you.
There's an error of communication.
You can elaborate on these points. Mr. N.K. Singh, your opening comments.
In logic classes at graduation level, there is one basic doctrine. All cows are animals, but all animals are not cows. And that is how what Rajiv Gandhi said on that day, which is being questioned, is
Rahul Gandhi.
एक छोटा सा सवाल है, इन सभी चोरों के नाम मोदी कैसे हैं? Then he reads out 3 names, Nirav Modi, Lalit Modi, and of course another Modi. आप अभी ढूंढेंगे तो कुछ और भी ऐसे मोदी निकलेंगे. Now the question is, he had not targeted Modi as title or a community. I mean, it's not. this is the basic thing which the judge, the magistrate, judicial magistrate must have looked at, which he had completely ignored. Second, there is a difference between legitimacy and legality. Legally, the speaker, what the speaker has done today may be valid within his rights, but he has lost legitimacy. Because tomorrow, now in reverse logic, sometimes you tend to prove your point from conclusion to premise. Now you take one. Tomorrow, suppose a court, an appellate court, suddenly says, no, I stay the conviction. Will a speaker not have to reverse his orders?
No, of course he will have to.
Denigrate his institution?
One more, Mr. Singh, that is how the law is. And we know that in the case of the Lakshadweep MP, the court did reverse her decision. And now...
Since you have interjected me, another question. Right? When Narendra Modi ji, the Prime Minister, in a public speech said, the question, the DNA of a Chief Minister, was it not the worst kind of gali in this country? Did anything happen? 50 crore ki girlfriend, did anything
I think
happen?
These are relevant points, and I'm going to ask them
we must question.
We must question everyone and question everything. I agree to that point, Mr. Singh. But you know, Anshul, Avijit, let me come back to you. Do you feel that if you rewind the clock and take it back exactly 10 years, that moment at the Press Club of India where Rahul Gandhi had come in, and I know this because I was in that press conference, Ajay Makan was hosting the press conference, Rahul Gandhi came in, made a surprise visit, picked up an ordinance which was negating this exact rule,
correct,
tore it apart. Do you think today he would be regretting doing that? Because had that ordinance existed, he would have been outside and not disqualified.
There is no question of any kind of regret. Do you think, one is so fickle as to think that no, now that it's gone against you, you're going to regret the decision that you made? I mean, that's not how it works. We are steadfast in our commitment to make politics free of this kind of, any kind of mala fide intentions. This is not the case, and therefore we will appeal. In this particular case, there was no mala fide intent or maliciousness in what was being said, and we will appeal to that. But our conviction remains strong. Our commitment to the
Which brings
to the
me
politics.
to my next question. While Mr. N.K. Singh said that we have to question the other such defamatory comments which have been made, I will come to that in just a short moment and ask Shazia Elmi those questions. Do you feel that this has been done deliberately by the Congress party because you want to take this message down to your constituents and constituency that look, here is a man who does not apologize. Here is a man who wanted to speak in parliament and was not allowed to, and now will not be allowed to because he stands disqualified. Thus, Rahul Gandhi was right in what he said in London. Is that the message you want to take down to the people, and will your constituents or constituency be convinced of your messaging?
No, the fact that Indian democracy is under threat and the fact that the statements were made in England, it was not a political point they were making. There was no political point scoring going on. We were not going to take advantage politically of any situation back home. It was really a comment on Indian reality that over the past 8 years, there has been a deliberate attack on Indian democracy by curbing civil liberties, by going after the press, by the alarming overreach of the executive. Time and again, I have 100 examples in front of me, including the weaponization of agencies and institutions like the ED. It's really suspicious that 90% of the cases are towards the opposition party.
Okay, for the purpose of this discussion, what we'll do is... Shazi, I'll come to you. For the purpose of this discussion, what we are going to do is we are going to separate the legality or the legal aspect of this case from the political. And we are going to involve Mr. Aman Lekhi as well as perhaps Deshatan Nigam also on the legal aspects. The political commentary we are going to leave to the political commentators. Now, Shazia Ilmi, you just heard what Mr. N.K. Singh said. You heard what Anshul Avijit has also said. How is it that the BJP or the government conveniently forgets other defamatory comments made by the, in this case, the Prime Minister no less, but choose to concentrate on this issue?
So first of all,
the court has convicted.
Yes, of course, exactly, and that your last 3 words are most important in this the question in the presupposition. So first of all, I heard a few answers. Executive has nothing to do with it. Judicial process has been followed, and they can seek, Congress party and others can seek more judicial remedies to this effect. Secondly, the matter of the ED and CBI does not arise in this at all, though that's a separate debate, and I have answered and been there, and all of us have spoken narrating the cases. Thirdly, and most importantly, when it was Rahul Gandhi, the then Vice President, who actually demolished all consultative mechanism when he tore the ordinance, so that with Rahul Gandhi will, and that was for convicted MPs and MLAs, but it was on matters of corruption. So I must make that very clear and also be fair in how I deal with this.
Yeah.
And fourthly and more importantly, the fact that a member of the community or a bunch of people, if they feel the last name is Modi and the surname Modi is used in a certain context, bringing disrepute individually and collectively, I think the court would be cognizant of the fact, as should all of us be. And I think instead of saying that Rahul Gandhi should have chosen his words carefully, instead of using a surname, and Pawan Khera did the same, using a surname, or talking personally and making an attack. One is an attack and linking the likes of Lalit Modi and Nirav Modi with a particular person. Two, also after the attack on Chaukidar and all that, and the Supreme Court having intervened, and then repeating and going on as a serial offender when it comes to use of language and choice of words, I think Rahul Gandhi definitely has a lot to answer for.
My question once again, there are many instances, as pointed out by Mr. N.K. Singh and Anshul Avijit, where you have had the Prime Minister no less make certain comments which I don't think were very charitable or kind. To that extent, why is it that is not defamatory and this is?
The fact of the matter is,
the court has convicted.
The court has convicted. This has come from the court. This is not to do with any special powers or any ordinance of the executive. Let me make it very clear. And like this is the court order, there is judicial remedies also available in that process. Now coming back to this. So firstly, I don't think there's been any Prime Minister or any political leader who's been vilified and abused and trashed as much as the Prime Minister has. Right from Maut Ka Saudagar to Kekda, Zehar Ki Kheti and Khoon Ki Dalali and Khoon Ka Dalal, and the kind of things have been said. So we can go there. We can go there.
ये भी एक लंबी फहरिस्त लेके बैठ जाएंगे.
हाँ, तो वही मैं कहना चाह रही हूँ.
Present a long list.
No, I'll just finish. I'll finish by saying that. I'll finish by saying that. This is what N.K. Singh started, and I can go on. So let's talk about the case here, because there is a lot to be said here, and I think it does well for all of us who are in public life, especially members of Parliament, to do better by speaking in a language that does not hurt anybody, individually or collectively, as a community.
Okay, I'm going to come back to the political arguments in just one short moment, because again, let's not lose sight of the legality of this case. We'll come back to political messaging, Jayantoda, for 2024. Mr. Lekhi, you know, in your opening comments, you said that the disqualification immediately after the conviction, not even considering the fact that the sentence has been suspended for 30 days. If you look at the law states that the conviction itself automatically leads to disqualification. So to that effect, what is the illegality or what is wrong in what has happened?
Well, this is a preemptive attempt to in some way frustrate legal remedy which is constitutionally guaranteed, which brings in the question of propriety, which is an equally relevant aspect along with legality. Because it is propriety which gives legality substance, and otherwise it's just dry letter of law without the value which law embodies, firstly. Secondly, what is very important here is there's an overlap between defamation and speech, free speech. Because there's overlap, there's a gatekeeping check. The gatekeeping check is everyone cannot initiate a prosecution. It has to be by a person aggrieved. Now, person aggrieved is deliberately not defined, because who the person aggrieved is will depend upon the circumstances of the case and the nature of the offence. And keeping the circumstances of the case and nature of the offence, the first question I said was whether the person who initiated the complaint could have initiated for this to actually snowball into what it has become is something which you have to handle, because it is that which will give this particular offence proportion, keeping in view the legal system which we have in place. That said, coming back to the point which you just referred to, the immediate disqualification. My objection, I don't share the Congress's ideals, and I in many ways how Rahul addresses is not something which shows any refinement or finesse. But that said, the question is, notwithstanding how uncouth a person may be, is still entitled to legal protection. Now, as far as the legal protection is concerned, the legal protection was guaranteed to him by the order itself. And because the legal protection was guaranteed with the order itself so as to facilitate appeal, the question of the disqualification being hurried raises question mark on the sentence. Now, the sentence is 2 years. Now, 2 years is the maximum for this particular offence. And it is for 2 years that Section 8 comes in. Now, the question is perception. If a 2-year sentence is given for defamation, which is the maximum, for which of course there would be justification, and immediately, notwithstanding suspension, there is disqualification, then it may seem that this legal process, the sanctity of which should be left untouched, becomes part of some kind of political strategy. Now, because everything is an issue of perception, it is very necessary that when we conduct ourselves, insofar as the act is concerned, the act should be free of taint so as to give it the legitimacy which it claims to have.
Okay. You know, this point that Mr. Lekhi is making, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, is significant because you look at the action, its political perception of that action, and then the legal position. And I would like to draw your attention in 3 cases. Number 1, all bulldozer actions in this country are an anti-encroachment drive. But the political action is always affiliated with some wrongdoing by someone, right? Which has nothing to do with encroachment. Number 2, this poster war that happened in the national capital, it had to do with defacement, 100 FIRs for defacing the public property. But we all know what the political messaging was. In this case as well, right now, Ms. Shazia Elmi said that the Prime Minister is the most abused, thus the Modi surname. But this case has not been filed by Prime Minister Modi. It has been filed by other Modis. So do you feel that the point that Mr. Lekhi is making can be understood in this context? That you take action, its political perception is different, its legality is different.
Well, Sanket, courts are not bothered about political perceptions. They will go to the legality.
But politics is bothered about.
No, let them be, and they will fight it out in the political arena. But the courts will see the material on record and the law and the evidence that they have. Now, if such a generalized statement is made and a person's name is Modi, he will feel aggrieved. And therefore, he has used that, the judicial process.
Just to extend your argument, Mr. Deshratan Nigam, on a comment like 50 crore ki girlfriend, what if I was coming to that. What if all the girlfriends are aggrieved?
Let me answer that.
That we find it defamatory.
What happens is, in a political slugfest, when you are making a statement in response to something, then people generally don't go to the courts. This was out of nowhere. Suddenly you blame Modi's, for that. There are cases against Nirav Modi and things like that, but you can't generalize that. So suppose a statement is made on a political leader, and then he also responds, then none of them are going to go to the court. Let me tell you. And here the simple fact is there. Here the entire community got involved. And secondly, in this particular case, conviction was not suspended by the court. Only the sentencing was suspended.
Sentence has been suspended.
So conviction stands. And therefore, it is the conviction under Section 8 which matters, and therefore immediate qualification.
But Rahul Gandhi has the right to appeal in a higher court against challenging this conviction.
Yes, certainly.
And if this conviction is overturned, then his disqualification can also be revoked.
Obviously.
This is the legal factor.
Obviously, immediate disqualification, but if it is a state, his membership is restored. That's what the law is.
Restored, correct. Yes. Okay. Jayanto Ghoshal, again coming back to the basic point. Messaging. Whose message goes, because it's very clear, I see some sort of a political win-win right now. You don't see the Congress backing down. In an election year, you see them making the most of this, I would say, Aapda mein Avsar. There is a crisis, he has lost his membership, and yet you've got very strong political positioning by the Congress. whose message is more convincing among the people? It's a crucial election year.
The most important thing is now, especially in the social media era, I call, that you have to communicate the message. Whether you are popular or not, whether your Jan Sampark Yatra is successful or not, these are the very important factors. And discontent after 10 years, it is a law of nature. So discontent is there, but
Discontent again?
against the regime,
the
they
dispensation.
get anti-incumbency against the Modi government. 2019 also, opposition thought that there is strong anti-incumbency. But what happened? So now 2024, just 1 year more, and it's knocking at the door. And in retrospect, I can say that Rahul Gandhi has failed to communicate to the remote masses, even the other regional opposition parties. You have to give the message of unity. In West Bengal, Adhir Chaudhary is criticizing Mamata Banerjee each and every day and fighting bipole. And here you are expecting that TMC will support Congress against Modi. And Kejriwal's, when Manish Sisodia in jail, the Delhi Congress criticized. And you know, this opposition consolidation, there is a major communication error of Rahul Gandhi, not even London or all this. Across, I mean, I can give you 10 examples. But the conclusion is that, from my side, the conclusion is that Rahul Gandhi, now, after this, it can be blessing in disguise for Rahul Gandhi, if he can use this opportunity. But Rahul Gandhi ko notank ke bhi nahi aata hai. So you have to create drama, and if you can utilize this opportunity. So I think it's
No, Bharat Jodo, he walked many thousand kilometers. You're calling it.
He travelled in air conditioned and walked few kilometers.
Even
Even
Amit Shah called it
It was all
Parishram.
live, Mr. Nigam. It was all live.
Okay.
I think every congressman is praying right now, Sanket, that the order is challenged and that conviction actually is kind of stayed.
No, so but
you know
this
why?
is the foregone conclusion.
Because that's
Order
the only
will
way
be
they can
challenged.
probably get rid of Rahul Gandhi and save themselves.
Who will get rid?
I'm saying the congressmen would be praying dearly that I hope Rahul Gandhi is really out of the way. Because he seems to be the only stumbling block in the existential crisis in taking Congress to another level.
No, you
Well,
seem
he
to be
took
speaking
the lead
on
in the
behalf
Bharat
of the
Jodo
Congress.
Yatra. He led the way.
Yeah, Anshul, I'm going to come back to you. Mr. N.K. Singh has not spoken for a while. Mr. Singh, would you like to weigh in?
The political message is very loud and clear. If in the last election, Modi or BJP for that matter had got 23 crore 230 million votes, double of it had been obtained by the opposition collectively, jointly. So these 46 crore 460 million people, they suddenly will realize that there is something terribly amiss in the democratic system, and tyranny of majority is being flexing muscles. That is very loud and clear. And if those 46 crore people, they unite, then things will be different. This is the message that you are going to get out of this entire exercise. Concatenation of events prove that.
But you know, Mr. Singh, hasn't that always been the way elections have been fought in this country?
That is fine. But there is a sudden change in quality of collective consciousness in society. And that is what is going to happen. You can't continue like this. The way things are happening, there is a rational, and you know that in collective consciousness, there is a sudden change. You recall emergency. There was a sudden change in collective consciousness. That is what is going to happen. That
You
is the
think
message.
that moment has come, the 1975, 1977 moment? Are you comparing this to that?
Yes. See, in a facade of democracy, there is a very palpable elements of high-handedness. I wouldn't say dictatorship, but high-handed arbitrariness. And that is very palpable. People can now watch it and see that
Okay,
no, there is
I think this
something
point that
which are
Mr. Singh is
democratic.
making, let's quickly take a full round and ask people, do you think that 2024 will be a 1977 moment, Mr. Deshathan Nigam?
Let me answer your question. When Mrs. Indira Gandhi was convicted by Allahabad High Court, that was I think on 12th June 1975, and the emergency was imposed on 25th June 1975, it was purely to turn over that case, and in order to protect her own seat as a Prime Minister. And thank God today Congress is not in power. Otherwise, in order to save Rahul Gandhi, probably the same thing would have happened. So we are living in a democracy. What was flowers of democracy earlier cannot suddenly become tyranny of democracy. When the Congress was there, we are having the best moments of democracy today, where everybody is allowed to speak anything.
Best moment?
Yes,
Okay.
best moment of democracy.
Absolutely.
This is the best moment according to Deshathan Nigam.
All
democracy.
over the world, it is now generally acknowledged that once Indian democracy was thriving, it was inspirational for the entire world, and therefore Mr. Rahul Gandhi said it is public good. Now it is illiberal democracy. You know, just by mandates alone and throughout the history of the world, let me not remind you, Sanket, there have been enough instances in the 20th century about parties coming to power on popular mandates and then destroying the very processes that then got them there. There are enough examples, there are monstrous examples. I don't have to go there. Now what is happening in this country at the moment is an illiberal form of democracy where institutions are being crushed, where freedom of speech is being curbed, and the Prime Minister gets away with anything. He can say anything and get away with impunity. Not just the Prime Minister, but members of his esteemed cabinet can say goli maro. He can say log apne kapron ko pehchane jate hain. The Home Minister, the Home Minister and the Home Minister has said the people coming from Bangladesh are like termites and they should be thrown into the Bay of Bengal.
Yeah.
If
This
that
is
is not
exactly what Shashi
defamatory.
Tharoor had also said, that this is what's happening. So of course, words are
Why
selected be
Congress
chosen.
didn't go to court on those statements?
No, exactly. My point is that you have now admitted that the institution of the legislature has completely collapsed, and the only thing that is relevant here is the courts. After all, what are people elected for, Sanket? They are elected to argue your arguments in the legislature. That the government has made sure has completely collapsed. No, that's another point. We are going to take all legal measures.
Okay.
So we should do
Yeah, this
exactly.
has come from judiciary and not from the BJP. The first point that Sanket started with, and I come back to this now. If Mr. NK Singh ji and others and Anshul feel that democracy is really in peril, I really want to reiterate and say this is a function of a robust democracy, and I think the collective conscious of the nation will see that which government works for them, which government has delivered. At the end of it, the words that have been used by Rahul Gandhi will be held against him by some, especially the OBCs. But mostly, it will be on it will not be decided by people all over the world. This is what Congress wants.
But it
will be decided by India. It will be decided by India and Indian citizens and Indian voters, which have benefited greatly from all the delivery and the great work that only this party has done for the benefit of Indians in terms of drinking water, in terms of all the schemes, in terms of all that we've got from the system.
Through the course of our discussion, there were many panelists in our previous programs who also said that it's a bit rich for the BJP to basically suggest that all people with Modi surname are OBCs, because that is not how the caste system works in this country. There are many people with Modi surname who are not OBCs.
Absolutely
also.
Right. So let me finish. It's small. So you can make a Venn diagram, and umbra penumbra, and you can fix this and you can figure out. But there are Modis who are also part of the OBCs, and they do feel affected by this. One, and the Prime Minister is that Modi, and it was said in context of imputing meaning to a sentence about the Modi community.
No, I'm just saying
implying that the Prime Minister is corrupt.
Many comments that have been made may offend others also. For instance, as I give you the example, a comment like 50 crore ki girlfriend. I do not think, I'm sure even you will not agree, that it is a decent thing to say. Anything in public domain which is said so casually.
I can go on. I mean, there's a list of 100 names.
A huge list.
Did any girlfriend go to the court?
No,
I don't know. I mean, I won't speak on behalf of the girlfriend.
No, but the comment was not offensive.
Whether they were offended
that
or
is a
not
legal
is an
point.
open question now.
Okay, fine. We have just stay on with us. We also have Congress MP Vivek Tanka, is a Rajya Sabha MP. Mr. Tanka, I want to ask you, legally speaking, we knew that this is going to be a foregone conclusion. Now a notification has come. We have seen in the past that convictions have been removed also, or they have been, the decision has been revoked or removed by various senior courts also, or higher courts. In this case, what is your hope?
Sanket, speaking strictly by words of law, I would say that we have a right to file an appeal, which would be exercised very soon, I'm sure. And we have a very good case to seek stay of conviction in that before the appellate court.
Would you like to tell us how you feel that you would be successful in seeking a stay?
Apart from those procedural wishes, like absence of an inquiry under section 202, this is a case which emanates from Karnataka, is filed in Gujarat, and the rule as outlined in CRPC is that if a magistrate trying a suit, a criminal case in Gujarat or any jurisdiction is asked to take cognizance of an offence which is of a place beyond his jurisdiction, there has to be some sort of an inquiry or some sort of a investigation which precedes such registration of a case. But all those are legal issues which will be placed before the appellate court, and we are very, very confident that whichever appellate court hears our case, whether it be the district court, because from a magistrate court we go to district court. If we don't succeed before district court, we go to high court, and finally we go to Supreme Court. I may just mention in passing.
Either way, Mr. Tanka, do you feel that this is a long legal battle for Rahul Gandhi?
It could be long, it could be short, this time will tell us, but let me tell you just today, I mentioned a matter in the Supreme Court which was of a very similar nature. Azam Khan's son, who was a juvenile, when in 208 his father got out of a car and sat on a dharna, and they registered a case against the father and son both. This is 2008. He is born on 1/1/93, and this is now decided by the Supreme Court against him in an election matter. Now, in that case, where he's a juvenile, he's been convicted for 2 years. And this has now become the new norm for BJP to get people convicted for 2 years. Okay. And when we went to the Sessions Court didn't grant us relief. Then we went to the High Court. High Court, we were not able to get relief so far. So we've come to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is hearing this matter on 29. So as I said, this new issue which is erupted in India, suddenly where such convictions on trivial incidents are magnified to convictions of 2 years, and this is a new norm of 2 years, so that it attracts the Representation of People's Act.
That's an interesting point you mentioned.
What the Supreme Court will have to tackle.
Now, can I tell you something right now? I don't know, maybe you are in a better position. Hypothetically speaking, while you are exercising your legal recourse, if during that process a notification is given out, the election commission holds a by-election and somebody else becomes an MP, and then you legally win this case, then what happens? You can't have two MPs to a place, no?
This issue is being faced by Supreme Court in Azam Khan's case, where while they protected the election took place and they could stop the process of election. So again, in Azam Khan's case, they will have to decide this matter. In the Lakshadweep MP's case, they have stopped the process of election. So again, that is also a pending matter in the Supreme Court. But my point is also political. In the past, when it was what was not said about Nehru in his days when he was Prime Minister, or even later, even today, the kind of filth and abuse and what not is said about him. Did anybody file a case? did anybody, whole of Mrs. Indira Gandhi's tenure, I remember tall leaders like Lohia Saab would say make such acerbic remarks about Mrs. Gandhi. Did she go to the court?
Oh, Mr. Tanka, again, I mean, they were if you ask this to the BJP,
it's a larger question.
They will hit back with charges of emergency.
No, I know, but then
the plethora of cases.
The people reacted, and Congress was removed, and the opposition won the election. But the point that I'm making, even Rahul faced the same, Rajiv faced the same ignominy, and right up to Bofas, everything was said about him, but he didn't go to court.
Okay, one moment. Mr. Tanka, you make a very important point, and Shazia Elmi,
small point.
He made a very interesting point.
Is Mr. Tanka making the point that Purnesh Modi did not have a right to feel indignation and file a case on the statement made by Rahul Gandhi?
I shall ask him this question, but the point that he's making, I want your response.
If all Upadhyayas, let's say Sanket, if all Upadhyayas are thieves or all Ilmis are, I mean, I might not be the concerned Ilmi, but it is being said, and I can feel as a member of the community or the particular subgroup of a society to feel offended and take it up.
Okay.
That is my right.
Okay.
As a petitioner or as a complainant.
Mr. Tanka made an important point, and I want to get your reply on this. He says that there is a trend, Mr. Tanka, you can correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a trend where you file cases, then there is conviction, and then you use provisions of the Representation of People Act and remove those people from being public representative. He says that there is a trend. How would you respond to this?
Well, because this happened in Azam Khan's and his son's matter, does not mean it is a trend. Purnesh Modi would have seriously felt a sense of indignation and shame at having heard it, and could have gone to the court and with a complaint. So, I mean, it's like his word against the complainant. It's like your word against mine. I don't know what legal bearing this has on the matter.
Something very similar has been said by Mr. P. Chidambaram. And again, I would like to seek your response. He says, and I quote, "Judgment on the 23rd of March, disqualification on the 24th. The speed with which the system moved is astonishing. No time spent on reflection, understanding or allowing time for legal review. Obviously, there are no voices of moderation in BJP party or government. The net result is parliamentary democracy has suffered another cruel blow." Your response?
I mean, I totally disagree. And I think Rahul Gandhi has been a repeat offender. Do you know how many other cases he's out on bail of? So I think Rahul, instead of correcting and checking Rahul Gandhi, and for all you know, they would be challenged and he would be back, his membership be restored. But instead of doing that, you're questioning again the processes. And I think there is a grave mistake in undermining the power of a common person to be treated a certain way and to feel that he has legal recourse.
Sure.
Which is exactly what Purnesh Modi did.
Now for that, Mr. Deshattan Nigam, now for that hypothetical situation, I asked, I don't know whether it will remain hypothetical or not. I want to get a response from Mr. Aman Lekhi also on this point. But Deshattan Nigam, what if Rahul Gandhi exercises his legal options, and in the meantime, you've got an election to Wayanad constituency and a brand new MP? Then what happens? And what if the court decides otherwise?
No, there is a grey area. There is a grey area in this.
There is a grey area.
There is a grey area in this which the parliament has to apply its mind. And secondly, a very strange kind of a comment was made by Mr. Tanka that BJP is getting the people convicted. If a lawyer starts making such kind of a comment, then he has no faith in the judicial system. It's the courts that convict. I mean, that's a political statement, not a legal statement.
Let me ask him, Mr. Tanka, would you like to respond? And then Mr. Aman.
What I'm saying is these are complaints sponsored by BJP and you are using the court mechanism for getting the conviction.
That's even more serious.
I'm not going into details. The procedures will be challenged in the appellate court. But these are orchestrated campaigns, complaints, not only in UP, but also they're happening in they happened in this case, and they're happening in other cases. I know in Madhya Pradesh. So it's not new. It's not something which is happening with one or two people. It's now on a scale which is very huge and big, and that is why the country is worried. The whole country is worried whether our systems and processes are being used against our very citizens. And that is why we say democracy.
Okay, that legality once again to Mr. Aman Lekhi. Aman Lekhi, would you like to weigh in and tell us what happens in a situation where Rahul Gandhi exercises his legal recourse, elections are called, a new MP is elected, and Rahul Gandhi also gets a stay?
Well, there's a concept called comity of instrumentalities, and then there's also a new concept, dialogue between institutions. Now, as far as this particular case is concerned, yes, there's no authoritative pronouncement, but my view is rather straightforward, and that reaffirms the principle on which our legal system is based. The question here is the person who's been disqualified has the right to appeal. The appeal carries with it the right to suspend the conviction itself. Now, if the conviction can be suspended, it will relate back to the conviction as to render unnecessary any re-election. Now, the Supreme Court is part of the scheme as the High Court and the Trial Court, as is the Election Commission. Now, when a case like this has an overlap, wherein you have the interests of the individual protected by the court and obligation of the Election Commission, there has to be some kind of adjustment in the respective obligations. And the adjustment is in some way encapsulated in the concept of what is called status quo, that is the interim order. The interim order is meant to retain things in the last uncontested state. The last uncontested state is when the person is actually continuing to be an MP. Because the right is in the individual and the protection which is guaranteed by law is available in any case. As far as the Election Commission is concerned, the Election Commission must necessarily defer to the outcome of the legal process and not frustrated by ordering re-election. Because ordering of re-election, far from adjusting rights, will in fact prioritize one over the other. And because prioritization of one or the other will infringe balance, and harmony is actually the basis of law, that action would be illegal. So I do not think, in my view, as far as the legality is concerned, is rather straightforward. I personally feel if this matter is pending, the Election Commission must necessarily stay its hand, and I do not think that they can or they should be a re-election.
All right, one last comment.
I just want to contradict Mr. Vivek Tankha and Anshul as well. They represent the Congress party. I really wish that BJP really had been proactive in when it came to making these irresponsible statements. I mean, BJP MLA Pudnesh was. But I wish there was action when, or a case made when chants like, जो हिटलर की चाल चलेगा वो हिटलर की मौत मरेगा, और सबसे क्रूर प्रधानमंत्री जनरल डायर अंगूठा छाप, he is a monkey, Modi should be buried, and there, I mean, I can tell you about more than 100. He is a pickpocket. I can go on and on. I can go on and on.
The whole point with this argument
because you keep talking about a particular statement of PM's, I wish, and these have been made by senior BJP leaders, the likes of Baghelas and Subodh Khan Sahais. So I want to ask you, Sanket, so if BJP was really overactive and zealous in protecting PM's interest, there would have been many, many more, because PM has been vilified the most, and the filth he has been targeted with. I think
but I'll tell you what the critical difference is. I'll tell you what the critical difference is. The difference is that if you critique the government, you are thrown behind bars. But if members of the executive, the Prime Minister and all his honorable members of the ministry said one statement after another, and I'm not going to go into that, we'll be going around in circles, they can say it without immunity. The problem is, my point is broader than this. It's not about a few MPs also being disqualified. It's also about those people who protested against CAA, the 22-year-old environmental activist, Siddiqui Kappan. For them, the process is the punishment itself, that you keep taking rounds of the court. And this is increased during the term of this government as a way to punish all detractors of this government.
But how do you see, politically, how do you exert this viewpoint on the ground? At the end, in an election year, you see everything will go down the very same funnel. On how do you convince the voters, the people, of what is happening? Will they agree with this argument or not?
No, that depends on our powers.
Ultimately, see, what is the BJP going to do? An electoral win, and they will say, look, you presented this argument.
No, that people have to, there is a different dynamic to an election. That doesn't mean you don't fight these battles. And also the battle of the economic devastation of India. Berozgari, Mehengai and Mandi.
Berozgari, Mehengai we'll take up on some other day, because
and I'll give you all the data there.
Yes, you can give all the data then. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in this edition of The Big Fight. News continues on the other side. Stay with us.